Welcome back. 6 episodes ago we set out to give agents a symbolic left brain. Along the way we built 4 tools, a lint pass for rulebooks, a shield for physical actions, a verifier for whole plans, and the unsat core that explains every verdict. Today they come home. Because none of these were ever meant to be standalone tricks, they are the verification layer of a single living system, the LLM Wiki, and its 4C framework. This is the episode where the series stops being a toolbox and becomes an architecture. First, what exactly are we protecting? An LLM Wiki is not a pile of documents, and it is not raw retrieval. It is a curated, structured knowledge base that an agent both reads from and writes to, living semantic memory, maintained with the discipline of a codebase rather than the chaos of a filing cabinet. And it exists to solve a specific failure. Ordinary retrieval hands an agent whatever text happens to match the query. It never asks whether that text is right, whether it contradicts something 3 documents over, whether it is still true this year, or whether anything is missing. The agent simply inherits every defect in the corpus, and, being fluent, presents those defects confidently. A wiki fixes this structurally. Every entry carries a formal shadow, the compiled constraints beside the prose, exactly the stage 3 artifact from episode 4. Entries are edited like code, versioned, reviewed, gated, so a change is a pull request, not a silent overwrite. And crucially, entries are verified, not merely retrieved. Before anything can be read or written, it passes checks. Those checks are what this episode is about. The framework is 4 questions that every fact in the wiki must be able to answer, and they spell 4C. Correct: does it match ground truth, the actual state of the world? Consistent: does it contradict nothing else in the wiki? Current: is it still true today, or has the world moved on? And complete: is anything missing that should be here? Now watch a line get drawn across these 4. Correct is a question about the world. To answer it you need sources, grounding, a human who knows the domain. The solver cannot reach outside the constraint store to check reality. But look at the other 3. Consistent, current, complete, none of them is about the world. Every one is a question about relationships between facts. Do these facts contradict each other? Does this fact still hold given what changed? Do these facts, together, cover every case? And relationships between facts are precisely, exactly, the thing a solver was built to reason about. So 3 of the 4 CS are not just checkable by SMT, they are the natural shape of an SMT problem. Let us take them one at a time. Consistency we already own, it is episode 4's lint, but transformed. There, linting was a batch job you ran on a whole rulebook. Inside a living wiki, that will not do, edits arrive constantly, and rechecking the entire wiki on every keystroke is hopeless. So 2 changes. First, the check runs on every edit, automatically. A proposed entry compiles to constraints and joins the store, but tentatively, behind a push, in a sandbox. Second, and this is what makes it fast enough to gate a save, only the affected slice relints. Not the whole wiki, just the entry's dependency neighborhood, the handful of entries it actually touches. Then the familiar move, check. If the verdict is unsat, the edit collides with existing knowledge, and it is rejected with the unsat core, so the author sees exactly which existing entries their change broke, not a vague failure. If sat, commit. And the transaction machinery is push and pop from episode 3, finally in their natural home. Try the edit in a sandbox, keep it only if the wiki stays consistent, discard the experiment either way. Consistency becomes not an audit you remember to run, but a property the wiki cannot lose. Now the first genuinely new idea of the episode, current. Facts decay, but the subtle part is that they take their dependence down with them. When a source is superseded, a tribunal reverses a ruling, a standard is updated, every entry that leaned on that source is now suspect, even if its own text never changed a single character. That is what makes staleness dangerous, it is invisible. The stale entry still reads perfectly. So we make dependency explicit and let the solver propagate. Watch the staleness spread. Each entry has a freshness flag. We record the dependency edges as constraints. E1's freshness equals the source's freshness, because E1 cites it, E2's equals E1's, because E2 builds on E1, and so on down the chain. Now the source is marked superseded, not fresh. And we assert the thing the publish gate wants to believe, that E3 is current. Check, unsat. Of course, E3 cannot be current when the source it transitively depends on is dead. And the core is the beautiful part, it lists the entire chain, source through E3. That core is the blast radius. It is the exact set of entries that need re-review, computed by the solver rather than guessed by a nervous engineer. Staleness propagation, as a proof. The third C, complete. Episode 4 previewed the gap check, here it becomes a standing obligation of the wiki. The question is there a case the wiki is supposed to handle, but for which no entry applies? The encoding is delightfully direct. Declare the space of cases, say, award classifications, levels 1 through 4. State which are covered, rate rules exist for levels 1, 2, and 4. Then assert the negation, that some valid case is not covered, and ask for a witness. Check, sat. Model, classification equals 3. And here is the twist that catches everyone the first time. For completeness, sat is bad news. All series long, sat meant success, a valid solution. But here a solution is a concrete counterexample to your coverage, level 3 exists, it is a legitimate case, and no rule in the wiki pays it. The model just walked through a hole in your knowledge and handed you its coordinates. So the same solver answers two opposite questions depending on how you point it. Consistency asks, do the rules fight each other? You want unsat. Completeness asks, do the rules reach every case? You want unsat there too, and a sat, with its witness, is the gap you must fill. Put the three CS together and the wiki comes alive as a loop with a gate on both doors. Consider a write, an edit arrives. The LLM does what it is best at, drafts the entry and its constraints. Then the 3C gate, is it consistent with what is already here, is it current given a dependency graph, does it keep the wiki complete? Pass, and it commits. Fail, and it is rejected with a core that says precisely why. Now consider a read, because verification does not stop at right time. An agent asks a question, candidate entries are retrieved. But before they are served, they are checked again, freshness and scope, at read time. Because between last night's edit and this morning's query, a source may have been superseded. A verified entry is served, a newly stale one is flagged for review rather than handed over as if nothing happened. The principle is symmetric and absolute, nothing enters the wiki unverified, and nothing leaves it unverified. This is the shift that matters. The wiki is not a store the agent is asked to trust. It is a store that earns trust on every single access. Step back and watch it turn, because this single picture is the thesis of the entire series. On the left, the language model, it reads the wiki fluently and drafts new knowledge, proposals, edits, entries. In the middle, the wiki itself, the living semantic memory, growing. On the right, Z3, it certifies the 3 CS and gates every commit. The LLM writes, the wiki holds, Z3 certifies, and what passes flows back into the wiki as verified knowledge, while what fails bounces back with a core. That loop is neuro-symbolic AI made concrete. Not a slogan, not an architecture diagram on a whiteboard, a working division of labor. A probabilistic writer that is brilliant at language and hopeless at guarantees, paired with a deterministic certifier that is hopeless at language and flawless at guarantees, circling a shared memory that neither could maintain alone. The LLM would fill it with fluent contradictions, the solver could never write a word of it. Together, they keep a knowledge base that is both rich and sound. Every episode of this series has been one arc of this circle. Today you see the whole wheel. Where does this actually live? Not in one system, but as a layer under many. My group's applied agents, award pay compliance, foreign investment screening, insurance triage, bushfire danger ratings, are each, underneath, a wiki whose entries carry compiled constraints, gated by this same 3C layer before the agent may act on anything. And the pattern generalizes the episode 4 idea to its logical end, knowledge CI, at scale. Every edit to every wiki is a pull request. The 3C checks are required status checks. An unsat core is a failing build. The entire discipline of continuous integration, which transformed how software is maintained, transplanted onto knowledge, because underneath, as this series has shown again and again, both are just consistency. This also names a research agenda. Provenance tracking, measuring how fast different domains go stale, their knowledge half-lives, incremental consistency checking, learning under constraints. A whole program of studies, and this verification layer is the spine that runs through all of them. One honest note holds it all together, correct, the fourth C, still needs the world. The solver secures the internal 3 so that people can spend their limited attention on the one only they can settle. I want to dwell on that boundary, because it is where the framework is most honest. What does SMT actually give you across these 4 Cs? It gives you a wiki that is internally flawless, no contradictions, no stale dependence lurking behind fresh-looking text, no coverage holes. Every internal promise, kept and proven. What it cannot give you is that any of it is true. The solver can certify that your encoded pay rate is consistent, current, and complete, and be entirely silent on whether it is the rate the tribunal actually set. Garbage that is perfectly self-consistent is still garbage. Correctness is a relationship between a fact and reality, and no chain of logic reaches outside the constraint store to walk over to reality and check. So the labor divides exactly along that seam. Humans, sources, and grounding secure correct at the boundary with the world. The solver secures consistent, current, and complete within. Each does the job only it can do, and neither pretends to do the others. Knowing which C the solver cannot close is not a weakness of the 4C framework. It is the framework being honest about where machine certainty ends and human judgment must begin. The honesty slide, and for a capstone episode it is especially important. 4 caveats. 1. Compilation is the weak link, still. Every C rests on prose being turned into faithful constraints. A miscompiled entry sails through all 3 checks and remains wrong, internally consistent, and false. The prose-to-constraint mapping must stay reviewable, it is the foundation everything else stands on. 2. Dependency graphs must be honest. Currency propagation is only as good as the recorded use's edges. An unrecorded dependency is a stale entry the blast radius simply never reaches, invisible decay. Maintaining that graph is real work, not a free byproduct. 3. Completeness needs a defined space. The gap check finds holes only in a space you declared. Cases you never modeled as possible stay invisible, the unknown unknowns remain unknown. The solver checks the map, not the territory you forgot to map. 4. Scale needs slicing. Rechecking a large wiki on every edit is fast only because we check neighborhoods, not the whole. Getting those slice boundaries right, large enough to catch real conflicts, small enough to stay quick, is itself an open research question. A verified wiki is trustworthy about the things it can check. Naming the rest, out loud, is exactly what keeps it trustworthy. 3 ideas to carry forward. 1. The wiki is where it all lives. The lint, the shield, the trajectory checks, not 4 separate tricks, but the single verification layer of one living, self-maintaining knowledge base. 2. 3 of the 4 Cs are solver-shaped. Consistent, current, and complete are all questions about relationships between facts, which is exactly and only what SMT was built to answer. 3. The 4th C keeps humans central. The solver secures the internal promises and hands people the one question the world alone can settle, correctness. Honest division of labor, by design, not by accident. One episode remains, and it is the one that steps back from the whole journey. Episode 8, Patterns, Pitfalls, and the Road Ahead. We will name the 4 reusable patterns that recur across everything we have built, collect the honest limits into a single clear-eyed view, and ask where deterministic reasoning for agents goes from here. The series has built the machine. Next time we read the manual and look at the horizon. See you then.